In 1970, I became a follower of Jesus. I then just began to devour the Bible, reading it all the time, involved in Bible studies with friends and others. I had never before really paid much attention to Jesus, but now I was reading especially the four Gospels. And again, it's interesting when you just read them and you've hardly ever read them before in your life, kind of the fresh outlook you have on it. Surely making a number of hermeneutical, that is interpretive, errors, but still reading it fresh. Reading the four Gospels was my great delight in my early years as a follower of Jesus. And I've continued my Jesus studies, even doing one of my doctoral qualifying exams in ancient Christology, the first 400 years of the development of the study and the doctrine of Jesus. Well, I was in for some shock, though, when I encountered certain religious leaders, Christian leaders, and how they talked about some things, especially about money. So I'll never forget 1970, a friend of mine and I, another brand new follower of Jesus, his name was Steve. Steve and I heard about this evangelistic meeting that was going on in Rockford, Illinois, where we lived. And so Steve and I went to the evangelistic meeting. And the preacher was, he was okay. But when he got to the end, he started to say some things that troubled both Steve and myself. Right at the end, because he started talking about money and giving to his ministry, of sowing into his ministry. And if you sow into his ministry, you'll reap a harvest much bigger than what you sow into it. So he had some kind of altar call at the end. And he said, if you bring an offering up now, if it's $10, you will receive $100 from the Lord in a check or who knows what. Or if you bring $100 up and put it in the plate, God's going to multiply that and return $1,000 to you. Now at that point, I looked at Steve and he looked at me, and we both agreed, this isn't in the four Gospels, this kind of stuff. This guy's out to make money for himself. Because when you read the four Gospels, you look at Jesus's views on money, and they were so much different than what this guy was preaching, or what some of the people we were seeing on TV, what they were preaching. So here's about Jesus and money. First, Jesus didn't have a lot of money. He definitely was not wealthy. At one point in Matthew chapter 8, verse 20, Jesus said, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but I don't even have a roof over my head. Jesus didn't have closets packed with robes and sandals for every occasion. Next, Jesus was not impressed with the rich and the famous. In fact, Jesus mostly viewed the rich and the famous as being spiritually bankrupt. He said in Mark chapter 10, verse 23, it's near impossible for a rich person to come under the rule of God. Next, Jesus did not come to raise money for his ministry. Jesus didn't carry cash. Jesus was always giving away to others. And ironically, what little money that entourage of disciples had was carried by Judas. That's John chapter 13, verse 29. Since Judas had charge of the money. Next, Jesus did not come for the sole purpose of multiplying your finances. Really? Well, look at Luke 12, 32 through 34. Jesus said, sell your possessions and give what you get from the sales to the poor. Provide bank accounts for yourself that will not wear out. Provide a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth will destroy. Next, Jesus did not operate according to cultural honor-shame hierarchies. Jesus climbed down the ladder. Again, this is Luke chapter 1, as Mary sings in her song, the Magnificat. He has brought down the rich and lifted up the poor. He's filled the hungry with good things, but he sent the rich away empty. Next, Jesus was not self-seeking. Jesus didn't come to get rich. He didn't come to be served, but to serve others. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, you cannot serve both God and money. In Luke 8:13 through 15, Jesus shares how riches put a chokehold on the rule and reign of God, on the kingdom of God. That is, riches prevent the releasing of God's reign. Scott Rodin, in his book called Stewards in the Kingdom, says this: we must never for a single moment lose sight of the stark realization that whenever we deal with money, we are dealing with dynamite. That is the one day that which we control. The next day becomes the controller. Such dynamite must be diffused, and the greatest diffuser that we have as Christians at our disposal is the opportunity to take that which seeks to dominate us, i.e. money, and simply give it away. Scott Rodin says, think about it. There is no greater expression of money's total lack of dominance over us or of its low priority in our lives than we can, with joy and peace, give it away for the Lord's work. Scott says, you cannot worship the God of Mammon and be a free and cheerful giver. You cannot serve the living God and be a hoarder of his resources. Giving, both how we give and how much we give, is the clearest outward expression of who our God really is. Our checking account speaks more honestly of our priorities than whatever else we do. As we approach this this Christmas, and it's a time of gift giving and gift receiving, just remember, somehow get it inside you, and I speak for myself as well, the kind of thing that Paul said to Timothy in 1 Timothy 6:10. Timothy, the love of money, the love of stuff, is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs.